Hi there, my name's Katie and sometimes I quilt. This week I've been fortunate enough to be able to get out and about and go to a secondhand book fair. I love thrifting books. I like being able to get copies of books that are out of print, that are not normally things that I would necessarily bring into my collection, but because they're secondhand and usually at a massively reduced price and sometimes supporting a really good local charity as well, I don't mind so much. So I went to the Lifeline Book Fair, which is held, I know there's some in Canberra. I've also seen advertising for some in other cities around Australia. Wherever you are, you probably have an equivalent. I find it's a really good opportunity for me to fill out my book collection, particularly for those out of print books or those hard to find books that aren't on the shelves or on Amazon or anywhere else like that. In particular, I have been trying to locate the books by Ginny Byer, by Gwen Marsden, and there's a couple of others. Looks over at my shelf that I try and fill out. I also really like technique books. What I find really interesting, and I'll point it out while I'm showing you the books that I got, is that because of the changes in technology and all that sort of thing, books in times gone past couldn't necessarily have the same colour pictures and layouts and things like that that they do now. As a consequence, I like going back and having a look at some of those books because it gives us a better opportunity to see value over colour. So the lights, the mediums and the darks, the placements within blocks, because when all of your diagrams or photos and things like that are in black and white, that's what you see. And I think it gives us an opportunity to be able to see things and do things a little bit differently. Or it could just be that I'm that old. So what we're going to look at today are the books that I bought, some other physical media that I bought, and also a basket or two and a really great old sewing box, plastic sewing box. I'm pretty sure I've got another one of those somewhere in the house. I might have to track it down. But enjoy. If things seem a little bit choppy in times, I am saving you from listening to my coughing. Yep. Anyway, enjoy. Hi, my name's Katie and sometimes I quilt. The theme of this video is she persisted. What did she persist with? Her voice. Anyhow, so let's start with the books and other physical media. So as I'm collecting the books, I actually have a list in my phone of books that I'm on the lookout for. At the moment, I'm trying to fill out, and I'm just looking at them just down here, my Ginny Byer collection and also my Gwen Marsden collection. So particularly as older quilters or people who have left quilting or what have you, and their book stashes have gone out into the universe, it's actually a really good opportunity to pick them up. So, and I keep a list in my phone of the ones that I've got so that I can not keep buying the same ones over and over again. So this time round, adding to my Ginny Byer collection, we have got Patchwork Patterns. So what I really like about older quilt books is they're a lot more technique driven, broadly speaking. I mean, we still have modern quilt group books that are technique driven, but I find that they're actually presented quite differently nowadays, and it might be a product of my age or whatever, but these ones suit me a lot more. So, for example, we've got Inspo Pips, and then we've got breakdowns of blocks and things like that. So I picked up this one. And I also picked up this one. So this is looking at a lot of scrap quilting. Of course, the technology of the day meant that colour pages were cost more or weren't able to be done. So they're pretty limited. But there's something to be said for taking things back to the basics of colour value, because then we can insert our own colour and our own perspective in it. Another one that I picked up coming out of the Canberra Quilters 50th Gold Challenge was I picked up a copy of this one by Margaret Rolfe. There's been a bit of discussion around our guild of late about the patterns in the books that Margaret has made over the years or done over the years. And this one is a whole lot of foundation paper pieced animals. And I know that even if I don't necessarily FPP myself a penguin or a pig, I'm pretty sure I know someone who will, although there's a rabbit there. Sometimes I even pick up books for other people or that I think other people will like. And this is an example of that one. So I found a copy of Sunday Morning Quilts by Amanda Jean Nyberg and Cheryl Atkinson. My voice is, anyway. And a lot of the techniques and the approaches in this, particularly in the start of this book, are more about managing scraps and making blocks or panels of fabric to then reuse in other ways. And I've bought this for a good friend of mine who buys me thrifty things sometimes, because I think this is an approach to quilting that she can get behind. So that's for Sarah. All right. I also really like older history, technique and variations books. So Lone Star Quilts and Lone Star Variations. Again, limited colour pictures. And then we go into other things. What I also appreciate about some of these books is there isn't just the line quilted as desired at the end of the page. This one has quilting diagrams and placement diagrams and everything all the way through it, which is really useful for if you're looking for inspiration for anything that you're trying to quilt. And these aren't necessarily just talking about hand quilting, we're also talking about machine quilting here. Then we can pick up technique or project specific. So this is a log cabin quilt, and I've already had a little bit of an idea of something that I want to do with log cabins in hexagons. So I'm going to have probably a sit down with this particular book and maybe some graph paper and have a bit of a think and a bit of a look. So we're looking at different approaches to piece centers, different layout approaches, and lots of different techniques and approaches to dealing with log cabins in all of their different variations. It also has sort of line diagrams to help you with the settings and colour placement and all of that sort of stuff. So that's really useful. And Blockbuster Quilts. This is kind of a how-to, and also there's patterns in there, but also how to get things to operate slightly differently in different blocks and different settings. Show you an example. Like using different types of connecting lines, different types of approaches, colour placement, all the rest of it. So that might be an exciting thing to look at. I'm almost there. Judy Martin, scraps, blocks and quilts. So again, different approaches to different blocks, straight line drawings as well as colour placements. So we'll wait and see what happens with that one. And last but most certainly not least, a little bit of a history book. Looking at Durham quilts. I love doing hand quilting and looking at different whole cloth quilts, and the Durham quilts and the Welsh quilts are a real favourite of mine to look at the moment. I'd like to do something in that space, but we'll find out. So they're all the books I got. But that wasn't the only thing that I got there. Physical media. I don't know how frustrating you will find it, but I get really annoyed when a movie, a series, or whatever moves from one streaming service to another. And it's kind of like an elaborate game of whack-a-mole where you're trying to find the thing that you wanted to watch. While I'm quilting, I like to have something on in the background that I'm watching, but also I don't need to think about a lot. In my day job, I have to think quite hard sometimes, and I don't necessarily like doing that all the time. So what I managed to find for myself was a whole lot of Fast and Furious movies. As I slowly and methodically rebuild my physical media library. So I think I have 1 through 6 and then 8. So I need 7 and probably up to 1 million or whatever they've done after. I do like a good car chase. Now, some of the other things that you can thrift in different places, obviously you've got secondhand shops, you've got antique stores, you've got, in Australia, Vinnie's, secondhand shops, op shops, lots of different places. So books aren't the only thing in the quilting world that we can thrift or that we can get in secondhand shops. I'm going through a little bit of a basket bent at the moment, and I find that, local secondhand shops, charity shops, thrift shops, whatever your local vernacular is for them, are an absolute treasure trove for that. But also, I've picked a couple of other things up at a couple of other places. Now, I swear I've got one of these somewhere. The good old big plastic box. It even still has the plastic insert. Now, I have a number of sewing machines, and my main machine, as you've probably picked up by now, is my Juki. As somebody recently said, why would people use anything else? But I also have my mother's machine that you'll get to see a bit of in the next video. I also have my grandmother's machine. I have a couple of other antique machines that I've been given over the years. So, don't let anybody tell you that you have enough sewing machines. You really don't. Anyhow, This green box is what I have designated that this box is going to be what travels with the machine that I call Wilma. It's called Wilma because it was my mother's machine. And it's a 1973-72 Elna. There's a whole story that I won't get into today, but I will get into soon. And it has most of its attachments, but not quite all, so I still need to replace some of those. But it is actually a really good machine, I find, for taking to workshops and things like that, because it has a table, a flat blade that's really useful for quilting and all that sort of stuff. But anyhow, I promise I will show you that one soon. So this here is the box that's going to go with Wilma. It's also the box that I'm going to be putting all of my bits and pieces in for an upcoming workshop that I'm going in, just so that I can keep everything organised and everything together. Another thrifted thing is this absolutely stunning sewing box. Currently empty. It has, however, been sitting beside my chair just over there, waiting for a decision around what's going to go in it. Now, with me being a little bit under the weather, I've actually spent a bit of time in doctor's surgeries, and turns out taking my applique with me to the doctor's surgery didn't quite work out because I found it too noisy to concentrate on getting all the little bits right. So I find myself in a position where I need to start a new hand piecing project that's just simple and that's straightforward and that I can just pick up and do, and I don't necessarily need to wear my glasses for. So I recently bought some stamps at the car fair, so I might do something with those and get some bits and pieces set up. The other thing I need to do is to get the rest of the applique blocks prepped, ready for me just to sew. So I've decided that the little green, lovely vintage thing is going to be where I keep all of the bits and pieces that are prepped and ready to take. I've got a little pouch that slides into my handbag. I need to do something with that because also I keep stabbing myself on pins when I put my hand in my bag. Less than ideal, but it would deter people from trying to lift something out of my bag, I suppose. Booby traps are real. So I might spend a bit of time trying to sort that particular problem out as well. On my baskets, and I have not made a decision about what's going to go in this basket, but I just thought it was beautiful. I've got this lovely basket with the leather closures. It's probably a picnic basket of some description. I was asked what I was going to do with it. I said, I don't know. Yarn was suggested, but it's got these and I've got kittens. So I don't know yet. I predict fabric of some description is going to go in that. I have gotten some other bits and pieces that fall under the thrifted heading, but I'll save them for another time. I'm going to go rest my voice now. Thanks for sticking with me. Editing this is going to be fun as I try and cut out all of the coughing. So if it seems a little bit dodgy in places, you know why. Anyhow, my name's Katie, and sometimes I quilt.